The reason we had Rachel Zegler on the docket is she's an asshole. This is truly like, she has to go. I'm sorry, Disney. She has to go.
Why not write some new movies? You guys sit around, you have billions of dollars. They keep going back and rewriting the classic.
I came back, the losses were around $4 billion a year.
Well, I know this point has been made, but this truly is the worst casting maybe in the history of the film industry.
Disney's live-action Snow White remake, starring Rachel Zegler, has become a total disaster, and it's no exaggeration. What was meant to be a fresh, exciting reimagining of a beloved fairy tale has ended up being one of Disney's biggest box office flops to date. Millions of dollars have been lost, and it's not just about the money. Fans are absolutely furious, and the scandal surrounding the film seems to only grow by the day. What happened? How did a film with so much potential fall apart so quickly? Well, according to whispers from insiders and industry experts, the downfall of Snow White didn't begin with bad marketing or casting mistakes. It all started with Rachel Zegler herself. Yes, you heard that right. Zegler's own words set off a chain reaction of backlash that might have doomed this film before it even hit the theaters.
But I think the movie bombed because it's bad. Those CGI little people.
Now, one thing that is already universally known at this point by the general public is the fact that Disney is in full-on damage control mode.
But these guys at Disney, they're not that bright, they're not that smart, and we see that because they can't come up with any new IP.
Because Rachel Zegler is a PR nightmare.
Let's break it down. Rachel Zegler, who was cast in the iconic role of Snow White, made some pretty controversial statements in interviews. These remarks stirred up outrage, and before long, the internet was buzzing with criticism. It was like pouring gasoline on a fire that was already burning. Fans were not happy. Many felt that Zegler was undermining the very essence of the classic fairy tale. Instead of embracing the role with the warmth and charm that Snow White is known for, it seemed like Zegler was trying to reinvent the character in a way that didn't sit well with audiences. But it didn't stop there. As the release date neared, more issues began to surface. The marketing campaign was shaky to say the least. It failed to generate the kind of buzz that Disney had hoped for. When people are already questioning the casting of the lead character, you need a solid marketing push to convince audiences to give it a shot. But that didn't happen. It was as if the entire movie was doomed from the start.
I think it's fair to say that no one can stand the star of this movie.
You guys. Disney's new live-action remake of Snow White debuted this weekend, and it's an even bigger dud than anticipated.
The reason why Rachel Zegler sticks around is she's got a beautiful voice and she has some talent. So I think that certainly helps her because she is a PR nightmare. I don't know how anyone would hire her.
I cannot buy that Gal Gadot is angry that she's not as beautiful as Rachel Zegler. I cannot buy.
Now let's talk about the movie itself. When the film finally hit theaters, it didn't just struggle with box office numbers, it bombed. Audiences who did show up were left feeling underwhelmed. The magic that made the original Snow White so special was completely lost in this new version. The film tried to update the fairy tale, but in doing so, it missed the heart of what made the original so beloved. Fans were hoping for a fresh take, but what they got felt hollow and disconnected. In addition, there was a lot of buzz around how the movie handled certain aspects of the story. Fans took issue with some of the changes made to the classic plot and characters. The introduction of new ideas, while intended to modernize the tale, seemed to alienate longtime fans who simply wanted to relive the magic of the original. So how did Disney end up with this mess? How did they manage to turn a legendary story into one of the most controversial remakes in Hollywood's history? Fans were angry. Theaters were struggling to fill seats, and the film's release quickly became a PR nightmare for Disney. It's hard to deny the fact that this could go down as one of the most infamous blunders in the history of movie remakes. This is a lesson that Hollywood should pay attention to. When you're remaking a beloved classic, you can't just make changes for the sake of change. You need to respect the essence of the original while bringing something new to the table. Snow White was supposed to be a celebration of the timeless fairy tale, but instead, it turned into a cautionary tale of how things can go terribly wrong when you misjudge your audience. Grab your popcorn because this story is about to get even more interesting, folks. The moment Rachel Zegler stepped in front of the cameras to promote Snow White, things took a nosedive. Fast. What should have been an opportunity to generate buzz for the highly anticipated remake instead became a PR disaster. Instead of getting people excited about the project, Zegler made headlines for all the wrong reasons, and it wasn't just a small slip-up. This was a full-blown controversy. Instead of honoring the 1937 animated classic that so many hold dear, Zegler chose to criticize it, calling the original film outdated, irrelevant, and downright problematic. She didn't just disagree with some aspects of the story, she practically dismissed it entirely, as if the iconic Snow White didn't have any place in the modern world. And that's when the trouble really started to snowball. According to whispers and insider reports, this bold and controversial stance instantly alienated Disney's most loyal fans. This wasn't just about a difference of opinion, it felt like an all-out attack on the beloved film that had been a staple of the Disney brand for generations. Fans weren't simply disappointed, they were furious. The Snow White they grew up watching had shaped their childhood memories, and now Zegler was calling it a relic of the past, unworthy of even being acknowledged. To them, it felt like she didn't even care about the legacy of the story she was supposed to be reviving. And just like that, the backlash exploded. The internet went wild with criticism, and the controversy took on a life of its own. Social media platforms were flooded with posts, memes, and rants from angry fans. They couldn't believe that Zegler, someone handpicked to star in this remake, was insulting the very film that had paved the way for her career. People accused her of being disrespectful and out of touch with the very fan base she needed to win over if the film was going to have any chance at success. The accusations didn't stop there. Fans were questioning the motives behind Disney's casting decision. How could the company hire someone who didn't even seem to appreciate the film she was supposed to bring to life? It made no sense. Why would Disney cast a lead actress who couldn't seem to understand or respect the significance of Snow White, the story that had been at the heart of the company for decades? The anger was palpable, and the backlash was swift. As the social media storm raged on, it became clear that the damage was done. Zegler's comments didn't just ruffle a few feathers. They had sparked a full-blown outrage that Disney couldn't easily fix. The fans, the heart and soul of the Snow White legacy, felt betrayed, and the film hadn't even been released yet. The controversy surrounding her words was already overshadowing the film itself, leaving many to wonder if the movie would ever be able to recover from such a scandal. And the worst part? The controversy only kept getting worse. With every interview, every comment, and every dismissive remark that Rachel Zegler made, the audience's interest in Snow White evaporated. What should have been an exciting, fresh take on a beloved classic turned into a warning sign for a remake that was destined to crash and burn. Instead of building momentum, Zegler's words pushed more and more people away, making them convinced that this movie wasn't going to succeed, no matter what Disney tried. When Snow White finally hit theaters, the cold, hard numbers didn't lie, and let's just say they weren't pretty. The film struggled to make an impact at the box office, raking in a measly $43 million in the US and just $44.3 million internationally. A total of $87.3 million might seem like a decent haul for a regular movie, but when you consider its eye-popping $290 million budget, it's nothing short of a financial disaster. Hollywood insiders were left utterly stunned. How could a remake of one of Disney's most iconic films flop so badly? This wasn't just any fairy tale remake, it was Snow White, a film that had defined the Disney brand for generations. The studio had put all its faith in nostalgia, star power, and a modern twist on the classic story, hoping it would strike a chord with audiences. But in the end, audiences just weren't buying it. The film became one of Disney's biggest financial failures in recent memory, and many critics even called it one of the most colossal money-losing disasters the studio had seen in years. But the film's failure wasn't just a matter of poor ticket sales. It was the controversy that truly killed it. The backlash, the online fury, and the negative press surrounding Snow White took a major toll on its reputation. And at the center of it all, Rachel Zegler. Her actions, her words, and the firestorm they ignited were the real reason this film became an unforgettable disaster. Her rocky history with public statements had already raised more than a few eyebrows long before Snow White hit theaters. According to rumors, this wasn't even the first time Rachel Zegler had stirred up controversy. Fans still vividly remembered her dismissive comments about West Side Story, the very film that launched her career into the spotlight. Instead of showing appreciation for the role that helped make her a household name, Zegler trashed it, leaving fans questioning her loyalty to the very industry that had given her a shot. This wasn't the image Disney had hoped for in a leading lady. Instead of winning over audiences with grace, Zegler's comments continued to backfire, making things worse with every new remark. According to insiders, many in Hollywood began to see her as a risky choice for future projects. Who would want to cast an actress who publicly trashes the films she's a part of? It became clear that Zegler was quickly gaining a reputation as someone who wasn't afraid to bite the hand that fed her, and that was raising red flags for many in the industry. But that wasn't the only problem. The backlash against Zegler's casting in Snow White only continued to grow. Fans were vocal in their disappointment, claiming that Zegler simply didn't fit the role of the iconic princess. It wasn't just about her looks, though many felt she didn't capture the classic appearance of Snow White. Fans argued that she lacked the charm, warmth, and grace that made the original character so beloved. With so much history behind this role, audiences wanted someone who could connect with the essence of Snow White, and they didn't feel that Zegler was the right fit to carry that torch. And the drama didn't stop with Zegler. The casting of the Evil Queen, played by Catalina Gallardo, was met with just as much skepticism. Instead of adding to the excitement, her casting only seemed to deepen the doubts surrounding the film. Many fans felt her performance didn't have the intensity or the commanding presence that was needed to portray such a menacing and iconic Disney villain. Without the right villain to counterbalance Snow White's innocence, the movie's dynamic felt flat, and audiences struggled to connect with the film's emotional core. The result? Pure disappointment across the board. Fans were left confused, frustrated, and ultimately uninterested in a film that seemed to abandon everything that made Snow White a timeless classic in the first place. What should have been a beautiful reimagining of a beloved fairy tale ended up feeling like a shadow of its former self. The magic was gone, and audiences just couldn't connect with what Disney had created. And then, just when it seemed things couldn't get worse, another massive controversy hit: the dwarfs, or rather, the complete lack of them. In a move that had fans scratching their heads, Disney made the baffling decision to replace the iconic 7 dwarfs with CGI characters instead of casting little people for these crucial roles. And to say that people were furious would be an understatement. The backlash was swift and powerful, especially within the acting community. According to insiders, many small-statured performers saw Disney's choice as a blatant slap in the face. This wasn't just about casting. This was Hollywood's latest attempt to erase real actors in favor of digital creations. The decision sparked outrage, and even Game of Thrones star Peter Dinklage didn't hold back. He publicly called out Disney's move, calling it insulting to little people in the industry. Dinklage's words amplified the firestorm, and soon the debate became a full-blown media circus. The anger wasn't just from the acting community. Fans, both casual moviegoers and longtime Disney enthusiasts, were equally appalled. Instead of embracing the spirit of inclusivity and giving talented actors a chance to shine, Disney's decision seemed to send the message that real, authentic actors didn't matter. Only CGI could fill those roles. It wasn't just a poor casting choice, it was an opportunity lost to show the world that Hollywood could move forward with more inclusive practices. The outrage didn't stop there. The controversy spread like wildfire across social media, and it quickly turned what should have been a nostalgic and heartwarming remake into one of the most tone-deaf decisions in recent Hollywood history. Instead of bringing fans back into the magic of Snow White, Disney had found a way to alienate large portions of their audience. The move was seen as a betrayal of everything Disney had once stood for, and fans let the studio know it loud and clear. As the criticism piled up higher and higher, Rachel Zegler suddenly scrambled to save face. After months of publicly dismissing the Snow White legacy, she made an unexpected 180-degree turn. Out of nowhere, she claimed that she actually loved the original animated film and that it had been a huge part of her childhood. But, according to rumors, fans weren't buying it for a second. This sudden about-face seemed like nothing more than a desperate attempt at damage control. For many, Zegler's words came off as forced, inauthentic, and way too little, way too late. The damage had already been done, and by the time she tried to fix her image, the public had made up their minds. Her half-hearted attempt to turn things around only made matters worse, deepening the hole she had already dug herself into. And the worst part? Even after all the controversy, the film still flopped, and it flopped hard. When Snow White hit theaters, it was met with an overwhelming lack of interest from audiences. Reports started pouring in from theater chains about half-empty screenings, and moviegoers seemed to have zero enthusiasm for the remake. It was painfully obvious that the buzz surrounding the film had fizzled out long before it even hit the big screen. Some theaters even went so far as to cancel showings because of embarrassingly low turnout. The reality was undeniable. This wasn't just another typical box office disappointment. This was an absolute failure, and Snow White had utterly failed to recapture the magic and charm that made the original so beloved. What was supposed to be a modern take on a classic fairy tale had instead turned into a cautionary tale for Hollywood about the dangers of alienating your audience and failing to respect the very stories that made Disney what it is today. Fans had spoken, and their message was clear. They weren't interested in a Snow White that didn't respect its roots, and they certainly weren't interested in a remake that had become the center of so much controversy. So, what exactly went wrong? According to industry analysts, the Snow White disaster wasn't just a series of small missteps. It was the perfect storm of bad decisions. The film's catastrophic failure can be traced back to a combination of poor casting, disastrous marketing, and most of all, Rachel Zegler's own words, which alienated potential viewers before the movie had even hit theaters. Fans felt completely disrespected by the way Disney handled the remake. And when audiences feel like they're being ignored or disregarded, they won't hesitate to skip out on a movie. Disney seemed completely out of touch with what their audience actually wanted. Instead of honoring the legacy of the original Snow White and embracing what made it so special, the studio made a series of choices that left longtime fans feeling betrayed. They alienated a loyal fan base, made questionable creative decisions, and worst of all, stirred up so much controversy that the movie was pretty much doomed before it even had a chance to succeed. And now, Hollywood is watching closely. This entire saga has become a cautionary tale, a brutal, unforgettable reminder that when you disrespect the source material, alienate your audience, and make baffling casting decisions, you risk destroying even the biggest and most anticipated blockbusters. The Snow White debacle isn't just a box office failure, it's a cautionary lesson about how one wrong move can turn an iconic fairy tale into a complete disaster. For Disney, the stakes couldn't be higher. The studio has already been struggling with a series of underperforming films at the box office, and Snow White's catastrophic flop may very well be the wake-up call they desperately needed. If even one of their most legendary fairy tales, Snow White no less, can't draw crowds, what does that say about the future of Disney's iconic remakes and its entire cinematic approach moving forward? This could be the beginning of a major shift in how Disney handles its precious legacy, and if they don't act quickly, their hold on the movie industry might just slip away. Now it's your turn. We want to hear what you think. Did Disney completely ruin Snow White with their disastrous remake? Or do you think the backlash was overblown and the whole thing just got blown out of proportion? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We're eager to know what you think. And before you go, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to Pop Flash for all the latest breaking Hollywood updates, and stay tuned because we've got even more juicy stories coming your way. Catch you next time on Pop Flash.